All right, I am showing 2:45 on my clock, so we're gonna go ahead and get started here so we stay on schedule. Our next section of our presentation is going to be Protege Power, and it's going to be presented by one of our agents who actually let me know next month he will complete his second year of being a farmer's insurance agent. Prior to joining Farmers, he was in the insurance industry for 5 years. Since coming on board, he's actually with District 44. He's actually been our top auto producer. He's currently our number one life issued and paid. In his free time, he says he is a musician who plays the guitar and also the keyboard. And another fun fact about him is that he loves fast cars. Without further ado, Mr. Pedro Ramos.
Thank you, Jeremy. First of all, thank you guys, District 44 and the entire team. You know, this is something really great because that's how you enrich yourself. That's how we learn from each other into becoming better agents, having stronger agencies, and a better future, right? And here I am to talk about a little bit on the Protege Power and basically what it is, right? I actually have a protege. His name is Jimmy. Most of you guys know about him, and I'll give you the insights as to how has he been, you know, helping my agency kind of like grow and all the positive things around it, right? But first of all, I mean, you know, what is an agency protege? Right?
Well,
Many of us have heard it, but we don't know exactly what it is. And in theory, you know, it's an agency protege is someone similar to you, someone that wants to be an agency owner at some point in time, that, you know, wants to be maybe a business owner, that wants to change a career. So always think about yourself, you know, how you came into this industry, how you were feeling when you were given the opportunity. And just like Jeremy said, you know, this is going to be next month, I'll actually be my second year into it. And whenever I was agreeing to having Jimmy as a protege, I remember myself, like, how did it feel? How was it? And all the enthusiasm that I was, you know, living up to that. So whenever you think about what an agency protege is, it's basically someone similar to you, someone that wanted, you know, to be a business owner, that wants to do a career change, or that really, you know, it's kind of like that they've had enough, you know, from the working for someone else side. Now, now, who is the ideal candidate? I always think of it, and whenever, you know, thinking about that protege is the ideal candidate is that person that wants more out of life. Because in all honesty, and you probably know, you know, being an agent, it's been a great blessing. You know, whether you want a little bit more time for yourself, whether you want better finances, better future, you know, maybe leave a legacy, and basically the ideal candidate is it's someone exactly like you know, whether you're calm or you're an introvert, extrovert. We have many talents in here, right? And all throughout this today, I've seen, you know, people of all ages, all types, you know. So the ideal candidate is basically you know, the person that, you know, maybe one of your clients, maybe one of your producers, or even your CSRs, you know. So they are usually in that stage of learning and seeing, because I remember I've been in the industry for almost 8 years now, and I remember working for my agent, and at some point in time, I told myself, hey, I want to be like him. You know, he had enough time to give to the family. He seemed financially, you know, stable, and I just said, hey, this is the business for me. Because I mean, at the time, and to be honest, no one ever, you know, graduates high school or is growing up and says, hey, I want to be an agent owner, you know, at one point in time. No one does that. But you get to experience that lifestyle, that career, and you fall in love. And then more than anything, you know, being, it's so satisfying because you get to help a ton of people along the way. You know, a lot of that help. And how is it that you can find one? You know, I remember when early on in my career, when I knew I wanted to be an agent, you know, I came from Best Buy. I used to work at Best Buy. I used to sell cell phones there. And I always thought to myself, there's gotta be something better, right? I mean, I was really good at what I was doing. I took a lot of pride. They would give me little awards, swag, as I call it. I remember I won some big, I guess I was one of the best salesperson within the company, and they gave me some sweaters and all that. And I told myself, hey, there's got to be more to this. I mean, financially, especially, in money wise. And so how do you find one? Find that person that wants more. Throughout your clientele book, throughout your friends, maybe relatives that know about you. Find that person that wants more. That maybe they're doing great where they're at, but that they want more, right? So, and it's very easy. I mean, as a matter of fact, right now I already have something in the pipeline, because as soon as one goes out, I want to keep doing this Protege, over and over, because it has brought a lot of power, a lot of goodness into my agency, right? And some of that goodness is like, hey, once you have a Protege, they start selling for you in essence. And all that production, or all those items, all that premium, hey, you get to keep. You're training them, and basically, as gratitude, or just, as an interchange between employer and employee, hey, they produce for you, and all those policies that they've been selling, you get to keep. So your agency in turns, it grows. So think of it as in hiring just like another producer. Why? Because they're going to be the best producer that you can hire, because they're in it for them. It's not just for you, right? Obviously, as an agent, it's in it for me. I'm hiring that person for me, but they're also in it for themselves, for their family, for their future, because I haven't seen yet another person, that tries so hard, but the person that's looking for their own future, right? And you get to keep the production for the most part. If you teach them well, if you provide the sources, the resources, they'll be selling, and they'll be paying for themselves. It's almost as if you're just investing time and wisdom onto them, because they are doing their own part. And the best thing of all is that once in there, and I can just imagine, because Jimmy, hopefully he's going to be an agent soon, right? I can just imagine, and he's expressed it to me already. How, the how thankful he is to me. Why? Because, and he tells me, hey, I'll be visiting you, from time to time. We're not gonna ever be, stop being friends. So imagine that door that you open for them is just as a mentor, as a friend, as a peer. It's very different. Why? Because you get to have an agent, that maybe it's working alongside you, that's going to have your back. That if you need, reliance because you're feeling down, or in the event that they're doing great at something, you can very frankly speak about it and say, hey, teach me what you know. I Jimmy is so far growing within my agency, and I know at some point in time he'll become better at something that I'm not doing quite as good. And I'm gonna make sure to ask him, and to ask him, hey, show me what is it that you're doing to make better, right? Because at the end of the day, having an agency protege is it's having a child, right? And for those of you that are parents, you know that whenever you have a child, you just want the best for them, and you know that they're going to grow up at some point in time, and very possibly they're going to look after you, right? In any moment of necessity, or whenever you most need it, right? So think of having an agency protege, to just boost everything in your agency, not just, your numbers or the production, but everything as far as the relationship goes, as far as moral support. And the best thing, and I've experienced it, is that even from the beginning, they look after you. Why? Because if something's going on in your agency, they're gonna have an open eye, and they're gonna be like, hey, maybe I don't like this particular thing happened. And they get to be eyes within the agency that many times agency owners can't, right? It's just that, that boss, employee, that there's a disconnection in there that you just can't do anything about it, but they're at the employee level where they can kind of like see and oversee and tell you if something's going out in your agency. I mean, and to be very honest, I frankly really recommend you trying to, hire a protege in your office, because like I said, they're going to be the best producers because they're looking after the intellectual property. And not only that, but they're going to be, it's going to be a very good result once they get to be agency owners. They're going to be your peers. And I always think of my agency, and hopefully, along the years, I can say this, that I planted many seeds, to where most of my agents or future agents, that hopefully they come, and I've had some impact into them, because all these, it's, some people call it karma, I just say, hey, whatever you give, you're going to get back. And I believe it. I'm the one person that if they're doing great, I don't want to keep them forever. I don't want to cut their wings. I actually want them to be under my wing, and then make them spread and grow, and grow bigger than me, if anything, because at the end of the day, it's just personal satisfaction, So use what it is. I know Roy sends email here and there, that if you have agency proteges, believe me, it's a good thing. It's just something very round for your agency, and something that's going to make it grow, and that it's also going to be in moral support for the future. Because believe me, and I know Jimmy, I mean, we've become good friends, and right now he might see me still as an employer, but I kind of always tell him, hey, one day we're going to be peers. You're going to be, side by side, and we're going to be pushing the same way together, learning and kind of adjusting. So I actually, recommend it, besides the financial goodness, because, sometimes it comes with bonuses, or it comes with financial compensation having one. Not only on that, but on the long term, you're going to have better agents. If you consider yourself a good agent, then imagine creating another one. And then think of it. If you started and you felt alone at the beginning, maybe you weren't a protege. But how would it had felt if you had been, guided by the hand by an agent that was kind of like already in the know of everything? So, with that in mind, I open up the questions, especially if you have something. I do encourage you. You're very smart people, because you're here learning, and this is an easy win. Having a project is just gonna make your office better all around.
Pedro, I want to thank you for that. I'm sure you have a lot of questions that are going to come in about Protege and maybe even your agency. And we have some time to address that Q&A. As you guys are thinking about your questions for Pedro Ramos regarding Protege or auto, and the first slide about Pedro Ramos, I wanted everyone to understand that normally you have an agent that does a lot in one line, and they're very well known for that. So we know that Pedro Ramos sells auto insurance in his sleep. But the other thing is that he just woke up one day and said, I'm going to write some life insurance. I think Ray Garza made him mad. I'm not really sure. But he's on fire this year, isn't he? So he's doing a lot of auto and a lot of life. But I want to share a few things about Pedro while you guys are thinking of your questions. So Pedro is number one in auto. He's also in the top in the zone, not just in the district. He's one of the top in the country, really. But I want to give him a few compliments. What you may or may not know is that he just got out of the hospital. He had emergency gallbladder surgery. And when I'm talking to him, he's not even talking to me about his gallbladder surgery. He's talking about business. And then he wants to know if he can have another protege. I said, dude, you're having surgery in a few minutes. We'll talk about that later. No, the surgery can wait. I mean, this guy is as crazy as I am, I think. Another thing about Pedro, we first met, obviously, I just took over Laredo just a year ago. I took over Laredo like 1 week before the Oklahoma conference. I was told verbally. I had nothing in writing. So I called some of the agents, and I talked to Pedro, not knowing who he was or anything. I said, Pedro, do you have any plans to go to Oklahoma? And he goes, for what? I said, there's a conference going on, an agent conference. I don't know anything about it. When is it? How long is it? And he literally had about 4 or 5 days to get ready for it. And I'm sitting in Oklahoma in the conference room. Those of you that were there, I know that even Carlos Toralva asked me, hey, who's that guy over there? And Pedro found a way within 4 days to get himself to Oklahoma. I knew I had someone who was committed to the business. And no offense to anybody else, because we have a lot of things on our plate, a lot of things to do. But that was a move that I didn't expect. And I just want to compliment you on that, Pedro. The other thing I want to mention is we had a bowling tournament in Laredo, a little bit of a happy hour. I only do that in Laredo. I don't do that in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. But here's a quick story about that. You see the photo of his team there? That team showed up and they would not play with anybody else on any other team except Mr. Ramos' agency. And I can't remember what staff of his was coming down the lane, and they had a drink in their hand. I can't even remember if it was an adult beverage or not, to be honest with you. But I'm joking with the staff and saying, hey, is that for me? And they said, no, it's for the man in charge. I thought I was in charge. They proved me wrong. That team is solid, and they will not deviate from Mr. Pedro Ramos. And the other thing is, if you haven't been to his office, right now is not a good time. But when it is a good time, you need to go check out his office. A lot of the offices in Laredo are pretty darn awesome. And Pedro, you have a great office as well. And the last thing I'll say about Protege is that in the middle of this, it's a learning experience for all of us. The new Protege program has changed drastically from the original one. If you heard him talking earlier about policies sold, you, the current agent, you listening today, you get to keep those policies. It wasn't that way when it first started. So to plug in for Pedro, one last thing before we start the Q&A, Pedro wanted more proteges. And I guarantee he's going to find a way. Like he said, he's already lining it up. He's probably got one waiting for me just to approve. This Protege program is now a program where everybody wins. So it used to be just the Protege one or just the agent. Now it's both of you. How I win as a district manager and as a district office, because if it doesn't benefit all, it's kind of hard to make it go. Well, the district office is going to win because we have the best coaches out there. All of you know that I haven't sold a policy in a long time. You guys are out there. You know the good and the challenges, as Pedro said. And I want to remind everybody, because sometimes I get a call about, I want to do this, and we no longer do it. And then sometimes we say, man, every time I want to do it, I don't get the chance. We don't know how long the Protege program is going to work. It's no different than some other programs. You know, they're so good that the company says, oh, we better scale back. And this is not a sales pitch. I don't get paid more money. I'm trying to help those of you that are looking for shortcuts to grow. Those of you that want to help somebody get started. Like Pedro mentioned, it's a good feeling. Jackie Cruz spoke earlier. Jackie Cruz was a protege. And now she's got her own business. So she's always going to be thankful to everyone that helped her get here. So I'll shut up. Mr. Ramos, I'm sure my staff will give you some questions from the audience.
Before we go to the questions, Roy, you had just mentioned when you first started talking about Pedro and how he's really excelled with life insurance as well. So it was actually just released last week that Mr. Ramos for the second quarter of this year and his agency have achieved the Triple Crown. And so what that encompasses there is that his agency for the second quarter did 90 personal lines, new business, new households, and or new line of business, 3 commercial policies, and 5 life policies issued and paid. And we looked at the numbers, and it wasn't one of those ones to where he barely made it either. So, Pedro, congratulations to you and your agency for the tremendous achievement in earning the Triple Crown Award for the second quarter of 2020.
Thank you.
Good work, Pedro.
Thank you.
So, Pedro, you had mentioned about how having a protege is, so much like being a parent, and obviously, when you become a parent, it brings the best out of you. So, having that protege in Jimmy, how has that made you a better agent?
Well, the one thing that I can tell you very honest is that whenever you're teaching someone, you start digging your realness, right? Because a lot of us agents like to talk, right? And we're talkers by nature. But whenever you're teaching someone, from the ground up, you're actually digging for your best nuggets. And by digging those best nuggets, whether our best practices or whether they're your systems, you get a reminder and you're like, oh my God, I used to require, let's say, 80 calls a day. And what's happening now? Maybe I'm not requiring them. Let me go back to it. So just by teaching someone, what you do, now you have to live it up. Because if you're saying, hey, Jimmy, or hey, Pedro, or whoever, we gotta make 80 calls, but you're not doing anything about it, then is it something that you just want to talk about it, or is it something that's happening in your office? So by having a protege, it's kind of like a reminder every day that your practices better be, polished every day. You keep sharpening those processes around your office, so they definitely make you better.
I'll interject real quick. If you remember, if you guys went to the agent seminar, I was kind of really excited because, I am an old timer and I always talked about scripts and systems and role playing. And Pedro says he role plays with his staff sometimes once a day. I thought that was pretty interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's actually one of the requirements. And, I just hired a person. His first day was on July, I think, the 6th, I believe, because once we came back from the Independence Day, and up to right now, he sold, I think, 14 or 17 policies. I haven't kept up with today's numbers. But you see, it's just showing that it's one, yeah, you got to hire a correct person, but also if you have your processes, then you just hand them over, teach them, and if they do them, they're gonna have results. So it's part of the why I have project agent, and why I love having new people kind of like over and over and over.
And Pedro, being a mentor agent, you are with Jimmy, you are mentoring him to become a farmer's agent. What are some of the responsibilities that you've given Jimmy within your agency?
Well, some of the responsibilities that he actually takes care is I always tell him, I speak, you have to be in a different level maybe than a regular employee. I always say you have to identify their character and then treat them, with their needs. In this case, Jimmy in particular, he kind of like responds to a stronger voice, right? So I always tell him, I expect this, and I'm very clear. I expect this of you, and if you're not doing them, it's just like a parent. I'm upset, and I might not say anything, but just being quiet, says it all from me. Especially because I'm usually very talkative with my people. I go into their level as to what they're doing, but if I'm quiet around them, they kind of know, and it's like the dad, it's what's happening. We better, pay attention to what we're doing, or we did something wrong. So from Jimmy in particular, I'm like that. I give him expectations, and I expect for those to be done. Right? It's not a question to where, hey, I'm gonna check on you. No, it's I actually expect them to send me an email and say, hey, this was done, and here are the results. So I'm very quiet as to where I'm not a micromanager in my office, but my quietness makes it to be kind of like a micromanager. Like everything is just poured into my systems at many times of the day. Like in particular today, I don't know, because I've been disconnected. As Roy said, I had gallbladder a couple of days ago, surgery. So I disconnected a little bit from the office, but on a normal day, I know everything. The moment that they sold the policy, it's already on my phone. I know the premium, I know who it came from, the source, everything, right? So uh, part of that is I always tell Jimmy, hey, part of your responsibility is if you see someone struggling, you better help him, and that's some of the things that I expect and that anyone that has a project should expect, from them. Just, to be very straightforward and to know exactly what they need to do.
And then what value having a protege has that brought to your other staff members and your other producers?
So some of the things is that my producers, they see that maybe there's a bigger future, not just an immediate, I'm an agency producer, I'm earning some type of money, but they see that, hey, this guy, my agent is pushing someone else to become an agent. Maybe at some point in time, he'll push for me to become an agent, right? So that automatically brings and boosts up the whole office, because now everyone's working on a level to become agents. Whether they're going to be an agent or not in the future is just the expectation, right? So high producing numbers are expected. So by having Jimmy around, I can always look into my other producers and say, hey, you gotta be like him. You're gonna have to push. And yet I can be very frank. Jimmy, he excels in some areas, but in some areas, some other producers are better. So it does help me, kind of like have a friendly competition. And one of the things that me as an owner or the way I conduct my office is that I give clear expectations of what needs to get done, and I expect them to be done. I don't hope for them to be done. I don't hope for maybe we're gonna hit him. It's like we need to hit it. Like, for instance, I think last Friday or last Thursday, I know we're missing one commercial for the 2 steps. I want to have five of those accomplishments. And I told Roy over an email, hey, I think it can't be that difficult to sell one more commercial. So this morning I told some of my guys, hey, who has sold that commercial? I need it, right? I need it to be sold this month. And 2 of them immediately said, we submitted some, we're just waiting on approval. So you see, I mean, it's not something that they want to do. It's something that they know they have to do. And they feel very proud because obviously I do promotions. In fact, just because I needed that one, I said, hey, whoever sells it immediately this month, I'm going to give $100 cash in hand. And I left it over there at the desk. So I said, whoever closes, doesn't matter if it's $900 premium or $10,000 premium, you just take those $100, spend it on whatever you want. And then on top of it, I still pay commission. So part of it is that, that me as an agent, I'm proactive to taking care of my team. And they feel it, and hopefully Jimmy, whenever he becomes an agent, he's going to take those nuggets that he liked from my office and he will just become just as good, and I always joke around with him and I said, well, Jimmy, you're going to be a very, very good number 2 because I'm the number 1. And
all right. Well, thank you for that insight there, Pedro, and answering those questions. Those are the only questions that we had.
Well, one of the things I want to finish up, and if any of my staff have anything else to plug in, let me know. But, I was listening to Pedro on the words that he chooses very carefully, and he's very good at it. And he said, a protege is someone very similar to you. And I'm going to share that because sometimes I have some of you guys call me and say, I've got a candidate that I want as a protege. I think you're going to like them. I think they'll be pretty good. None of us really ever know, but when the program first started, folks, we were looking for producers to be proteges. Now we're looking for candidates who want to be an agent someday, and we call them proteges. So that is a big difference. I know I have offended a couple of you on the call today because I said I'm not going to allow this protege candidate in. Well, you have to remember, like Pedro said, sometimes they are your children. They're not mine. And I'm so glad that Pedro and Edgar both said that it's not the DM's fault. You know, we take ownership in what we do. But in all sincerity, when you send a protege our way, Cynthia's got one also. Cynthia Carlos mentioned she's got one as well. These are your adult children of the business. We're not just looking for a salesperson or a sales rep. And it is, if you heard Pedro say earlier, it forces him to dig deeper, to be better at what he does, right? To stop talking, because we all like to do a lot of talking. But the minute they say, hey, you're in charge of this protege, it's a weird feeling. Now it does make you dig deeper, and it does make you go back to, am I really doing this, or am I just talking about it? So proteges, we all need them. It is the future of how Farmers wants to grow in the new agent training program. Protege is just a title. Pedro said it best. It's someone very similar to you. If there are no more questions, double check the chat box, guys. Pedro, do you have any other closing comments you want to finish with?
Well, basically, this is great. You know, take as many nuggets as you do. And I've always practiced a simple thing after any training that I have. The very first thing, and hopefully you guys do that whenever this ends, instead of you saying, okay, I'm done, well, good, shutting down the computer, you know, take out a piece of paper and write 3 things that you say, tomorrow I'm going to do. Like, or if not, maybe even today, right? You don't have to do 20 things or one from each agent. As simple as it could be, or as hard as it could get, just say, I'm going to choose these 3 things and I'm going to start tomorrow. Because if you don't start, you know, things are not going to change. So if you want to become better, then change is imminent, right? So I like it. In fact, I already have 3 of my things that I'm going to do, and immediately. And even in my sickness or in my surgical days, you know, I'm already thinking, and I already messaged earlier on, you know, from something that I heard from Edgar, and I said, hey, that's gotta be done tomorrow, you know, tomorrow morning. So that would be my closing statement. You know, take 3 things and do them. Don't get overwhelmed by everything. Just, you know, simple as 3.
It's been a great day, guys, and we still got one more group, and they're going to close it with some power. And at 3:45, I believe is the next one.
Yes.
And I even hate to say it, it's our last one. I just been so excited to hear all this stuff. I'm getting emails and texts from everybody thanking my district staff for putting this together, because they've done all the hard work. We all are going through some challenges, and yet this is, we're in a great business. I never said it was easy. I just said I always say it's worth it, right? So apparently, according to things, I still have money, and she wants to do another spin the wheel. All right, let's do it.
All right, better see your face.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
It better not be Pedro again. Gabe Ramirez.
Hey.
Gabe Ramirez.
There he is.
There he is.
All right.
Hi, Gabe.
Congratulations. Mr. Gabe.
Congratulations.
Do we have any more questions or any more comments? Everybody's good? We'll see you guys at 3:45, guys. 3:45 is our closing speakers and Q&A.
I did pick up the check, Roy.
I saw Whataburger in the background.
I sent you the check copy. You see it?
No.
Oh, come on.